Today we will be talking about number bonds. A number bond shows the relationship between a number and the parts that combine to make it. The concept of number bonds is an important foundation for understanding how numbers work. A number can be decomposed into parts. If you know the parts, you can put them together, which is to add to find the number. If you know the number and one of the parts, you take away the part you know, which is to subtract, to find the other part. Number bonds should be introduced in kindergarten when students begin working with Standard OA3, which is decomposing a number less than or equal to 10 into pairs in more than one way, by using objects or drawings and recording each decomposition by a drawing or equation. Let's look at an example of a number bond template that students may use in kindergarten. You will notice that the template, the way it's oriented at the moment, that the whole is at the top and the parts are at the bottom. The orientation of the template can change. It can look like this, where the whole is to the left and the parts are to the right. It can also be turned completely upside down, where the hole's at the bottom and the parts are at the top. Or it can be turned to where the hole is to the right and the parts are to the left. Children should be familiar with each and every one of those orientations, so that when they're given something to do and it's turned a different way, they'll be familiar with it. When number bonds are first introduced in kindergarten, students should have concrete objects to use. Let's look at an example. Here I have the number bond for 5. You will notice that in each of the boxes with the number, I have placed my concrete objects. So let's look at some different ways to decompose 5. In my first example, I have decomposed 5 into 2, and 3. And you will notice there are no objects left in the box with the 5. In my second example, I have decomposed my 5 into 1 and 4. And in my last example, I have decomposed 5 into 0, and so my first parts box will stay empty, and 5. Now, could I have decomposed it to 5 and 0? Yes. Would that have been a different decomposition? Yes, it would have been. So let's look at another example. This time we're going to look at the number 4. In my first box, I'm going to decompose my 4 into 2 and 2. And if the children are doing this, they're physically moving these models. The next one, I did it to 1 and 3. And in my last model, I decomposed 4 into 4 and 0. The same thing, if a child thought that they wanted to put 0 and 4, that would also be acceptable. After lots of practice with concrete objects, students would transition from placing the objects into the number bond to drawing pictures to represent the number and its parts. So let's look at an example of that. For this one, we're going to start with the number 4. And in my first picture, I'm going to decompose it into 3 and 1. In my second number bond, I'm going to decompose 4 into 2 and 2. And then my last number bond, I'm going to do it into 0 and 4. Let's look at an example for 5. 5, I'm going to do 4 and 1. I'm going to do 3 and 2. And then I'm going to do 1 and 4. You will notice that even though I decomposed my first number bond into 4 and 1, and my last one into 1 and 4, those are 2 different decompositions.